Welcome to our first yet MASTERBRAND podcast. Today, we are honored to introduce our first guest, Federico Ferretti, our passionate product design mentor from Higher Europe, a company specialized in major appliances. Number one company.
Number one
company.
major appliance.
Yeah. Here at IED, you can find Federico teaching his many beloved students from different programs. But specifically, he's the coordinator of the Master in Innovation Strategy and Product. Today, I'm your host, Colin, and we here at MASTERBRAND hope these insights serve you in some way, shape, or form. Now, let's hear from you, Federico.
Sure.
How are you today? And maybe describe a little bit about what you do at Higher and in IED.
I'm doing great, and a really nice occasion to be here. Well, as you mentioned, I'm managing a team of designers, but not only product designer, something that span from design strategy, interaction design, and product design in the largest company of home appliances out there. It's called Higher, Asian-based, but we are globally, and I'm managing the team in Europe. My background is in industrial design. That is how it was called back in the days. Means learning how to make product in a larger scale. Today is like innovation strategy and product. What does it mean? That product is just one of the things that you can touch to make innovation, and innovation is the creation of value. In a short sentence, what has changed is like the convergence of design with business.
So is that a common thing for the master to change, to adjust to modern times?
Well, I hope it is common for every master, of every people who is teaching, because we cannot teach what was relevant 20 years ago to a younger generation. So hopefully all the title, pay attention to all the title of the master, how they change, if they change, because if they change, it's a good sign.
That's
because they adapt.
So the innovation strategy master is also being innovative as well.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, let's get into some questions here, just so we can get some design here. How has your design mindset, you said it's evolved a little bit over the years, right? You said your past business and your past experiences changed it. Can you explain a little bit how has it changed? Like, I think you said 20 years ago, obviously you can't teach the same design principles. Were there any moments specifically that changed these design mindsets, and how does that change?
In our class, and was when reading an article about Vespa. It was an article on Domus. Back, I know everything. I know it's probably May 1997 or something like that. The new Vespa was coming out on the market, but there was a nice story about how the Vespa was invented back in 1945. And this one was literally an epiphany for me, because reading this kind of article in which there was like a small extract from the diary of Corradino Dascani, who is the designer of the Vespa, I realized that everything didn't start from a shape or from an intuition, but start from observation of people. And there is all the story of how Corradino Dascani just literally have a walk in Pontedera, which is the city in which Piaggio still today, and looking at how people were using mobility vehicle. That at the time was only bicycle and car. He realized that it was time to find a solution that was something between a car and a motorcycle, and then the scooter came out. Another epiphany moment when I was working for Fisher & Price, Price and Mattel back in the days, and there was a moment in which I realized that I was not designing toys for kids, but I was designing toys for kids, and for the parents, we were buying the toys for kids. So that was another moment in which I realized, that's true. Yeah, that's
they are the ones buying. Yeah, so that's so you would say that you've become more, you prioritize observation a little bit more, especially people, right? I think the big point of our class was that you made us repeat a couple of things, that where do we start from? And it's always the people first.
Exactly.
Right? So that's how you'd say the design is now more important, is that observation. That's what you realized was important to you.
Yeah, maybe this one is a bit counterintuitive, and I came to this conclusion after a few years, but I think it's literally based on understanding other people. Most of the time it's based on common sense, but we try to invent something dramatically new, and then we forget about common sense, which is really powerful tool. And last is based on intuition.
By your team, intuition.
I think intuition as human being. I think design is really connected with the notion of making something new for surviving. So we are wired, our brain is wired for make our species to survive. So I think most of the time we underestimate that we are, again, wired for that. So we don't need to know the latest framework, latest process. It's like, what I can really do for other people. Most of the time we just follow our intuition, not necessarily the latest cool book or framework that teach us.
Well, I'm going to jump ahead because this is very interesting to me, this idea of intuition with your team. So I have this question here, and in your design team right now, How does that creative process look like? Because here at IED, I've had a chance to work with many groups and many people, and depending on the people you work with, sometimes the design process changes, the creative process changes. How do you apply that intuition and the people observation into your team? Like, how can you tell us a little bit about the creative process?
Actually, I have literally this chat with the team yesterday. We are designing a new generation of washing machine that will be launched in 2 years' time, and the team is keep on diverging and then converging classic process.
The double diamond.
The classic double diamond. Yeah. We use exactly the word intuition. Or even instinct, sorry, maybe instinct is even better. So our goal is to observe, but then make choices fast. Most of the time we stop, we are afraid, especially younger generation or young designer, to make a choice.
Okay.
So yesterday the team presented like 10 variations. Say, I don't care about the 10 variation. You should not care even if you feel that one direction is makes more sense.
Yeah.
Just start to focus directly on that. You follow your instinct, your intuition. We are underestimating this kind of ability of taking decision.
Yeah.
We are afraid of taking decision.
Yeah.
So back to your point, I think this intuition or instinct is exactly like, I feel like I should do that. You feel it, and your feeling is based on what you learn. Usually in the first step of every process, there should be a step that starts with people, as we mentioned before.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, it falls from this idea of wide brainstorming and then just really trying to make that linear choice, trying to streamline it down.
Yeah, right? But brainstorming should start with a purpose. If design doesn't have a purpose, you are just having ideas.
That's
but
interesting.
You should have an ideal to follow. Then you have ideas on the ideal. This ideal is like an ideal customer journey, an ideal experience for your consumer. Brainstorming is important. I actually hate the word brainstorming. Because it gives the sense that creative people just spend time having ideas. Creative people spend time having ideas, but before doing that, they try to define what is a purpose. Yeah, but brainstorming, should happen.
Yeah.
Design thinking should happen, but this one is in the problem-solving part. The first step is problem setting, understanding what is a problem, understanding what is the purpose. Then you can use your creativity.
To me, one of the most interesting things about the class we had was that problem setting. That going back from the double diamond, because I feel like most people already kind of skip ahead, right? They kind of go straight to the end of the brainstorming process. But going back and setting that purpose, that Vespa story, still, like it did give an epiphany to me a little bit to realize that
a little bit,
that story. Like how you told it so passionately for that time. I kept thinking, okay, why did this guy really care so much about this? It's obviously a beautiful design, but then when I really start thinking about it, the most important one to me was that when people look at product design, they forget that it really starts somewhere. And when I went back to the double diamond, this was something that was the problem setting, right? As you said,
exactly. We need a purpose, and then we need creativity to solve the purpose, and then after that, we need to make it real, and that is common to every kind of creative disciplines, not only product design. That's why I'm also in your class. All in the creative industries, creativity became an industry actually, and people need creative people around. For these three things at the end of the day: purpose, idea, or creativity, but then make it
execution.
Real. Execution.
So I don't know if we can go a little, I don't know if you can share this much, but you mentioned a little bit about you being innovative recently with your team about the new line of, was it washing machines?
It's a washing machine.
Yeah. So I don't know, maybe you can share a little bit about something exciting in technology and appliances, something up ahead.
The most exciting things in technology when it comes to home appliances is that you have to identify the technology that is not necessarily the most advanced, but the most acceptable by people. You have to design something that, yes, is innovative, but still accepted by the majority of people. When you have to home appliances, you cannot be too disruptive. So you have to find exactly the right level of innovation, the one that will be accepted, and that you can call it incremental innovation. So what we are really working for in all the home appliances is to find this kind of balance. We have a formula that we call the 3F inside my team. It's called to make something familiar, that give a lot of feedback, because people have to be reassured when you use a home appliance in general, even if it's a refrigerator, and fast. And familiar is a key. But then you can build in order to accompany people through a change.
That's very interesting. We talk a little bit about the practical aspect of design here, but what's something interesting to me about design, what is the emotional aspect? Do you think about this a lot? The emotional connection that people, is there a way to connect with people emotionally in a design?
The difficulty of emotion in large corporation, but also in the design field, is that it's hard to measure, to be measured.
Okay.
So because emotion doesn't have a metric. It's really hard to convince people that these things is important. Or at least that is what I struggle in the most when I work in a large corporation. But emotion is what is driving, luckily, our choices and our life. The cosmetic aspect of design work with our emotion. We have this kind of approach that we call the 5-55, 5 meters, 50 centimeters, and 5 centimeters, which in a way help to dilute the relationship between a product and a person in a kind of experience that is happening through times and through space. And the more you're getting closer, the more you see that is work with the person, but also work with the product. What does it mean? That what is driving is literally kind of emotion are always something that make us attract, something attractive or repulsive, right?
Okay.
All the way in which you can manage and massage a design, I talk about the aesthetic now, not the design in general, is exactly, if you are a good designer, you design something that is attractive and work with your emotion. And then, of course, there is a brand on the top of it. But imagine that brand was not invented yet, and just the product. So there are something that are connected with gesture, proportion, composition, and details that are less attractive, more attractive in all the culture, and that is pretty is something we always are looking for.
I hear it all the time, emotion in branding and how we have to build this relationship with the customer. I can tell that I think design on its own, irrespective of branding, also has a place in this relationship with the customer. But going a little bit into branding now, because we mentioned it a little bit, I want to talk about, getting a little personal here. Recently, Valentine's, there was a brand that I really love and a product that I think design-wise is timeless. I think we can say timeless because for over the years, I feel like they've changed very slightly. It's Lego, right? So Valentine's, they released these Lego flowers. But I feel like this hits that emotion as well, because it's not just some blocks you're building. It's an activity you do with your loved ones, and I thought this was really fantastic. This is something that I really like. Do you have something that maybe sticks throughout time, timeless, maybe even cross-cultural or something like this?
We are looking for timeless things.
All the time.
Today, because if it's timeless means that in 10 years, 20 years, it's still relevant. For me, aiming for a timeless design is a way of sustainability today. It means that the product can last longer.
Of course,
Because timeless is having this ability of understanding what can be relevant now, but also in 10 years' time. So let's keep away from the idea of timeless design, like a timeless aesthetic. That, of course, is one thing. We can talk about that. But and you mentioned Lego. Lego reinvented themselves, even in the era of digital era, in which people were, and younger generation were using video games much more than physical blocks. So remaining relevant, I think, is an important part of it. You can do that also with physical design or aspect or aesthetic, but remaining relevant is an art that is bringing together marketing, branding, product design. We were talking in the class about Nespresso. I'm pretty amazed on how they manage every time to remain relevant. I think now there are like 3 or 4 generations that Nespresso is started with the capsule, and then with the original system, I think back in the 80s. They invented these not only the capsule, the technical story, also this idea of a kind of premium coffee experience. And then they keep this idea of premium relevant for different generations. That's for me, being relevant, understanding how consumers are changing or how a context is changing, is something that is a higher purpose and try to do timeless design. Timeless design is starting from understanding how you can remain relevant.
I mean, it makes sense where if you get as many people involved cross-culturally, but also across time as well, like to be important to a lot of people, this is what makes a timeless design. That's very interesting to me that you talk about espresso, because this is a commodity good, right? This is something that everybody kind of just takes for granted, and then they turn that around. Do you have anything that you would wish became a special experience? You think eating water would someday be a special experience, maybe, or some commodity you think you would really love to be taken to another level?
Premiumized product today is like a marketing technique, which at the end of the day is, in a counterintuitive way, is a democratization of premium. So it's not really premium. It's like making the notion of premium, of belonging to or having a status, making more democratic. That is what an espresso has done, right? So of course it's a more expensive coffee, but the fact that you are feeling part of of the club at the beginning, or part of a system of touch point, which is not all about the product, it's about the experience of the capsule, the experience that you have in the shop, is a democratization. It's not a process of making it premium, or is making premium more accessible. Yeah, I would like to do something that is more sophisticated, but the ultimate sophistication is like design basically disappear. So there is a famous quote from Naoto Fukuzawa that used to say, the best design is the one that is solved into behaviors. It means that it doesn't even look design. Yeah, that is my aspiration. So yeah, thanks for chatting about that, because now we connected three words together. One is timeless, one is premium, and one is the idea of make it relevant and spread. And
that's very interesting. This like almost seamless design, how it goes into the background. This is really interesting to me, because when it becomes a habit, when it becomes a behavior, you almost don't realize anything, but it just becomes part of your daily life, right? I mean, we don't think about it, but a spoon is designed very well. The fork,
everything. Everything. That was my teacher back in the day, used to say, everything that is not growing on the tree is design. Returning back also to another point that we mentioned, the one of the attention. Why my design or my solution should be loud? Should be there not in the background, but in extremely helpful and useful when I need it. But then I don't want these things just always asking for attention. And if we have attention, we should give to people, not to objects. Right?
Sure.
Not even to brand, but don't tell that to anyone.
No, I mean, it should be something that people emotionally connect with, and not something they spend time having to study. That's very interesting. And in this crowded market of like this seamless design, everything is designed, right? I mean, we take it for granted. Do you think brands and products and companies, do you think they still need to look at ways to be different? Or do they need to find a way to add value to the customer? Is this the most important, the people at the end of the day? Like, how do we differentiate?
Yeah, being different have been a way of doing branding and doing design. But again, it's not the purpose. Being relevant is a purpose. And we were discussing yesterday with the team about authenticity. So how we should create a story which is not an invented story, but is a story of what this company has done in the past. And sometimes just underestimated that the story is there. And we don't have to invent it. We have only to maybe to polish or to make it more clear or to revamp. We have this discussion about doing that, or trying to be loud and inventing also a new story. I think that we should have always a lot of respect about the past. In some culture, actually, I work a lot with Asian people that are still a kind of economic boom, and the novelty, the different is like cool, and the past is gone, so it's old. Not true. Then you realize the past, and again, it's connected with all the things that we mentioned today, timeless, relevant. The past has a lot of value. So designers should really step into the shoulder of a giant, in the sense that you should rely on the past. And branding, history, I think, is the authenticity that you mentioned is understanding the past and what is still relevant today in your past history of your brand, of your company.
That's really something. The spring metaphor you did was really, I think, spot on. Way to propel forward, right? Like it really is to push forward. This is very interesting. Now, something maybe to push some of our listeners here. In this new age, right? We talk about trying to be relevant. Do you have something, maybe some advice for the younger creatives, maybe trying to break into the industry of product design, innovation strategy? I mean, what do you look for when you hire somebody, or like when you look for somebody?
I look for passion.
Passion.
And sometimes, especially at your age, you are still figuring out your passion in a way, or you are building that. I think it's a Mark Twain quote that says that there are two important days in your life. One is when you realize what is your passion, what your art beat for. Yeah. And the other one is second day that is important is when you realize what is your gift, is when you can give to the other people.
Yeah.
And it takes time to understand what makes you happy. And most people have a talent. What we call talent is a gift that we have, or is only a passion that we nurture. But the best thing that we can do with this passion is to give it away to other people.
Yeah.
What is your gift? It's called gift for this reason,
Gifting,
because you
just
give
it away.
Gift, right?
I realize it's now you saying it. Yeah. That's fantastic. That's really wonderful. Well, I'll wrap this up. That brings us to the end of our first IED MASTERBRAND podcast. A huge thank you to you, Federico, for your time today and your insights and these like beautiful stories. This is just the beginning. We'll be bringing in more industry experts and leaders to share their knowledge. If you're curious about what's next to come, make sure to follow along and Thank you, Federico.
Colin,
Really,
thanks. It
once
was a
again,
pleasure to
fantastic.
stay with you today. Thanks.